Controversial opinion incoming, I really like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Back then, in 2005, it was actually my favorite Harry Potter movie. I know, crazy, right? I don't know what's gotten into me back then, maybe a bit of recency biased. Well, today in 2024, or when you're watching this, it's probably already 2025, I don't think it's my favorite, but it's got a lot going for it that many people maybe miss. This movie often gets the take of being the worst film adaptation of Harry Potter, and that perspective I can totally understand. But just know that in this video, I'm only looking at this movie from a movie perspective. I'm just evaluating what I can see on screen, and I'll leave the comparison to you hardcore book fans out there. Now that I've set the scene, let's get into how this movie holds up in 2025. Especially looking back, does this movie have some weird character and plot choices? Absolutely, and I'll get into all of those, but let's start with what this movie does great. Starting with the general vibe of this movie. While Harry Potter 3 took a big risk by switching from childlike to a more serious, almost horror-like tone, I think Harry Potter 4 is a great continuation of that style. It cuts back on the horror a little bit, but keeps it very serious while subtly introducing that awkward teen romance theme, which the next movie of course pumps up into overdrive, but we're not there yet. In this movie, the characters are just slowly starting to deal with relationships and the problems that come with this.
Next time there's a ball, pluck up the courage and ask me before somebody else does.
Also, having Hogwarts host the Triwizard Tournament, which introduces us to students from other schools, plays very well into that teenage drama. It's also yet another very welcome expansion of the wizarding world. I just love how movie after movie we're slowly introducing elements outside of Hogwarts. Never too much at once, but always a satisfying amount. It makes the world feel real and alive, as there's always something new to discover. While in the last movie the Quidditch at Hogwarts and the points that each house gets at the end of the year was the real deal, in this movie nobody cares. It's actually not even brought up anymore. Instead, we get to see the World Championship of Quidditch and a tournament between different schools. And speaking of these different schools, this is in the end a video about watching Harry Potter in 2025, and while many things are different from today's perspective, one aspect that I couldn't help but notice is how the two new schools that are introduced to us are like the most extreme stereotype representation of women and men. The women are dressed very nicely, have a very cute entrance to the point where they make butterflies appear.
Bloody hell.
And the men look all serious as they shout and bang their staff into the ground, making sparks and even breathe fire. I'll let you be the judge of this. All I want to say is that this would be received very differently if it were published today. But speaking of breathing fire, the CGI in this movie is amazing. Things like the dragon or the underwater creatures hold up really well even for today's standards. It's not only technically amazing, but also the design choices are great. That's especially true for the introduction of Lord Voldemort. This is the first movie that shows us Voldemort as a fully alive version of himself, so that sets the standard for the movies to come, and looking back, it would have been really easy to mess this up, but I think this visual representation of Voldemort is amazing. Today we all take it for granted that this is just how he looks, but if you take a step back, you can really appreciate this moment. It's exactly how I would imagine a Dark Lord to look like. Now let's address some of the movie's shortcomings. As much as I like the idea of the Triwizard Tournament, from a realistic perspective, what we actually end up seeing here is completely barbaric. I mean, they don't have to do this tournament. They're doing it for fun, for the glory, and the entertainment. So why are these challenges so deadly? I mean, they're literally risking these kids' lives for fun. Like we're suddenly in the Colosseum watching gladiators fight for their life. Like, isn't Hogwarts already dangerous enough? Why do we need to put these students in extra danger for fun?
That's completely mental.
And that's not even mentioning how this group of adults, including the wisest wizard of Hogwarts, Dumbledore, deciding that although Harry is too young for the tournament and they are aware that something evil is at play here, they should just let him take part in it and see what happens. Sure, let's risk Harry's life to see what happens. What could possibly go wrong?
He's back! He's back! Voldemort's back!
Oh yeah, probably that could go wrong. Story and character-wise, this is in my opinion the biggest shortcoming of this movie, and probably something that annoys the book fans even more, as many of these scenarios were not in the book, or at least very different in the book. You probably all know this viral clip.
Did you put your name into the Goblet of Fire, Harry? Dumbledore asked calmly.
Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
But having said that, the advantage of the Triwizard Tournament is that it puts a unique twist on the classic Harry Potter routine and gets us to the action very quickly. Usually Harry Potter movies take some time to build up, as we start with the Dursleys, Harry takes the train to Hogwarts and so on. In this movie, however, Harry is fighting a dragon after like 50 minutes, and that's only his first challenge. Having this tournament dominate this movie gives it a very unique identity in the Harry Potter lineup and takes us through many great yet very different action set pieces. Just like I am now going to take you through my 3 favorite scenes in this movie. My first favorite scene is the lesson with Mad-Eye Moody.
Which curse shall we see first? Weasley! Yes. Stand!
Yes, we see Mad-Eye Moody earlier, but this is our first real introduction to the character, and it's so captivating. It's a scene that could easily be boring since we spend about 5 minutes just in this classroom, but this introduction to his character is so intriguing. We also go through so many emotions in this scene and learn about the 3 curses, which is very important for this movie, but also for all the other movies to come. Congrats to the actor Brendan Gleeson for having such an amazing presence in this scene, or actually in this entire movie. Also his reveal and setup, how he made it possible for Harry to win the tournament, is done exceptionally well, and is even better when you watch the movie a second time. This next scene is a lot shorter and less important, but it's still great, and it's Snape being Snape. Or should I say Alan Rickman being Snape.
Our teeth will do it. Tonight when we get back to the common room.
Do I even have to say anything? This is one of those subtle scenes that you just remember, as Alan Rickman makes this role even more his own. My last favorite scene is actually more of a set piece, and that's the entire Christmas dance.
Dress robes.
Dress robes? For what?
As I said earlier, I like how this movie subtly introduces that awkward teenage romance, and having this Christmas dance is just the perfect catalyst for more awkwardness. And it's so refreshing to see these kids that fight dragons, trolls, and huge spiders deal with something that us normal muggles also deal with, and that's finding that date for the Christmas ball.
Why do they have to travel in packs? And how are you supposed to get one on their own to ask them?
Also, a little bonus scene for you. I love how Robert Pattinson decides to hold his wand in the final battle. It's something that we've never seen before, and this was actually improvised by him, but I think it works really great.
Felt so dorky to hold it like a magic wand, so I'm holding it like a gun with 2 hands.
An adult's perspective. Harry Potter is just such an honorable guy and a great role model. In this movie, he faces extreme challenges that are not made for his age, that he doesn't even want to do, and even gets bullied in school for competing in the tournament. And as if that's not enough, the challenges all become extra difficult for him. There are 4 dragons, one of which is really dangerous. Which one does Harry get? Of course, the dangerous one. Everybody has one person in the water that they care about. Harry has 2 with Hermione and Ron. The trophy is supposed to teleport you home. Harry instead gets teleported to the graveyard and has to duel with Lord Voldemort. This movie really punishes Harry so hard, physically and mentally. And what I'm trying to get at is that from an adult's perspective, I have even more respect for Harry Potter after watching this movie again as an adult. Circumstances like this are enough to make even the toughest adult crumble, but Harry not only persists, he doesn't cry about it, and even does the honorable thing under the most extreme circumstances.
For outstanding moral fiber.
The scene that I think perfectly shows what I mean is when Harry Potter has to duel Lord Voldemort. He went through all the things I just mentioned, and now Lord Voldemort, the most feared wizard in all of Hogwarts, wants to kill him in a duel. What does Harry do? Take a look for yourself. He toughens up and fights. As a 14-year-old kid, man, what a character. And also a detail that I think is really important is that yes, he toughens up in that moment, but as soon as he's out of danger, he absolutely starts crying his eyes out. A very healthy role model for all of us. We should really appreciate how lucky we were growing up with these movies.
Yes.
Overall, despite its shortcomings, I really enjoyed watching this movie again. Yet again, I'm really impressed by the CGI in the 2000s, and I can't help but feel like we'll never get franchises like this again. But gladly, we're not done revisiting Harry Potter just yet, so share your thoughts on this movie in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. I mean, they're literally I can't say this word.